Alright, so I've had an interesting request. What we really want to do with this page is we're kind of doing a different scroll technique. Okay, so we're going to scroll the page, but we're going to have this bar scroll along with the page. Okay, so if we look at the comp, if I have that, okay, so here's the comp of the page. See how it's supposed to have a scroll bar with arrows and like that? So I was trying to think of the best way to do that, and this page is not a set width, or is not a set height. It's always going to be different height. Therefore, the bar here is actually going to be dynamic height. Okay, I can't set the height to 100% because it won't work. So if we actually inspect the page here, let's drop this into the page like that, and then let's pull up the page. So we've got container, and then we've got the left div, the arrow div, and then the right div. Okay, if we go in the arrow div, we've got a div for the arrow, which I'm not doing in this video, and then the scroll bar itself, and then a div for the bottom arrow. Again, not doing those yet. Okay, if we go into the scroll line, okay, inside of the line is the handle. Okay, so the line is technically the container of the handle. Okay, note that. Okay, so let's get started making this scrollable. Well, first let's get the line in there. Okay, so we've got a document.ready. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is get the line. So the line itself is called is class scroll line. Okay, so that's that. And basically what we want to do is we want to set the height of that line. So if we were to set the height to 500, okay, to just look at it, that's going to set it like that. Okay, so we need to figure out how big we want this to be. Okay, well, let's see. We want the whole width of this, the whole height of this div, not the page, just this div. So if we kind of inspect the page here, we see, okay, well, what div is that? If I scroll to the bottom so I can see, okay, so this div is perfect. Whatever. So this I've given it a class called this page so I can get it. But the height that we want to match the scroll bar to is going to be the this page div. Okay, the height of that is the right height for the scroll bar. So we're going to set the height to we're going to grab the this page div, okay, and we're going to grab the height property of that. Now setting this, okay, we'll set the scroll bar to the exact height. However, it goes too far, and if we look back at our comp, we see that it doesn't need to go that far down. So we're just going to subtract some from it. We're going to subtract about 60 pixels from it, okay? And I'll show you in a second. So I've subtracted 60 pixels, so that's perfect. That's where we want it. And we can see, well, I'm not going to pull up the CSS, but the CSS, this is actually 30 pixels margin top, okay, and this is 60 pixels minus. So it's actually, this is exactly margin top half of what we minused here. That doesn't really mean anything to you, but that's what happened. Okay, so now we've got our scroll bar line, and we've got our guy here, and just to check, it is perfectly in the center, which is great. To do that, you just have to set the position left. So if I actually check out what this is, so you can see, we've got a left of -3. Okay, and the scroll bar, the handle itself is position absolute, and if you're going to have something absolute, you need its parent to be relative. So I've got its parent position relative and the handle itself to be absolute. Okay, so we're going to be adjusting the top property. So let's see what happens. So what we want to do is have the bar move as we move the page. Okay, that's what our goal is. So let's see how we're going to do that. Well, the first thing we want to do is we want to have an event on the window scroll, right? So we're going to grab the window, which is just like this, okay, and we're going to grab the scroll function, okay, and we're going to make that a function. So let's just make sure this works. So console.log here. As we scroll, it should be giving me a message. So again, let's get our developer tools and just the console. Okay, so as I scroll, we see the numbers 48, 48, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so now we've actually got a correct event here for our scrolling, which is great. That's what we want. So as we scroll, what do we want to have happen? Well, we need to know two things. We need to know the position, okay, of the page, your current scroll position, and you need to know, so let's write that. We need to know our get current scroll position, and then we need to get the max amount of scroll possible. The reason for that is if we are, let's say we're in the middle of the page, okay? That's 50% scrolled, okay? The only way we're going to figure out that we are 50% scrolled is if we know how many pixels we're down and how many pixels the total is. That's the only way we're going to know we're 50%. Why do we want to know that we're 50%? Because if we know the percentage, we can easily place this scroll bar on this bar because we know the height of this bar, and we just say, oh, we want 50% of that distance. It'll be really, really simple. That way, it does not matter how tall this is, ever. We just want it to get a percentage. That's why we're going to use percentages. It's great. So, to get the current scroll position, okay, all you have to do is get the top. So we're going to do var pos for position equals this, again being the window property, dot scroll top. Okay, that's going to give our current scroll position. And if I console.log that out for you so you can see what that looks like, and I'm not going to continue console logging everything out because it's going to take too long, but if I go to the top, you see we're at 0, and if we go to the bottom, we see we're at 1022. 0, 1022. Okay, so 1022 is actually our max scroll. So we need to get that 1022 even if we're up here. We need to be able to echo out 1022. Because if we can't echo 1022, then we have no idea how much our scroll is. So what is that number? So then we're going to say var max scroll. Okay, this is our max scroll equals. Now this one took me a while to figure out, so I'm just going to kind of tell you what it is and just know that it works. So body, okay, dot outer height. Okay, so this is the entire height of the body itself, and you actually have to subtract, okay, the window dot height itself, which is, yeah, I don't know why, but this is what it turns out to be. And this was a lot of guessing and testing and a lot of DOM crawling and a lot of figuring out how to get this to happen. I'm sure this is out there somewhere, but so if we console.log, okay, our max scroll, and remember, we're trying to get 1022. Remember that 1022 from, actually, you know, I'll log it out as well. Console.log pos, okay? So it's not going to be exactly 1022. Oh, it is. Look at that. All right, so we're at the top here. We're at 0. Let's clear this out. So we're at 0, all right, 0, 1, okay? And see that 1022? That means when I get to the bottom, 1022, 1022, 1022. That means I'm going to be at 100%, which is great. That's beautiful right there. That's what that is. Anyway. Okay, so we're good there. So that's our position and that's our max scroll. We're actually going to be adjusting this in a second because there's one more thing to take into account, but we'll do that in a second. So now we actually need to calculate the percentage of what this is. Well, the percentage is really simple. It's just the position divided by the max scroll, okay, times 100, and that's our percent. That's really simple. Now we need to set it, okay? So we're going to just say our scroll handle. Okay, so here's the identifier for the scroll handle. Dot CSS top is going to be our PCT, our percent. Again, we have to add the percent sign or it's not going to do it. Okay, and this will set it that way. So if we refresh the page, as we scroll, it's beautiful. Look at that, following our page exactly. If I go to the top, see what happens right here? This is what I'm talking about. The top of this reaches the bottom of this. And that's the correct behavior the way we have it. So we actually need to adjust the bottom by the height of this div divided by 2. So we actually take this height here and we need to subtract, put this in parentheses, our scroll handle dot height divided by 2. Okay, and again, I'll explain that. That's the height of that's the height of this guy divided by 2. Okay, that'll put the middle of it at the end. And you know what? We don't even want the divided by 2. We want the end to be at the end. So forget the divided by 2. There. So that's gonna stop it right there. Okay, that's where it's gonna stop now. So let's go save this. Again, we're subtracting that. So we can get rid of that parentheses because we're not going to do the division. Save, refresh, and now, okay, well I did the wrong multiplier. It needs to be plus, not minus. Awesome. Okay, so it's off by a little bit. Okay, and that's probably because it just needs to be minus. It's like 5. So there is a little adjust. There you go. Boom. Perfect. Okay, so now we're scrolling with the page. This is great. This is beautiful. I feel like it's really static, though. It looks just really, really static. Okay? It could be cooler. How can we make it cooler? We can make it animate and scroll. So let's do that. So we're going to change this to animate. And we're going to put these in a property form because that's how it needs it. And in order to do that, this has to be a colon. Okay, so now it's going to animate, and there's going to be a problem. I know there's going to be a problem, but I'm going to show you this first. Okay, so it's like messing up, and it's like not doing it, and it's like now it's just going to scroll forever. Well, that's because we just scrolled 1,000,000 times, and it's doing all these tons of animations, so it's got like a mind of its own. What we have to do is actually throw a .stop.animate, like that. And now when we refresh, now it'll do the animation, but now instead of always being with the page, it's kind of a little bit laggy behind, but it kind of gives it a really cool animate to effect. Okay, it's really kind of cool. It's looking like I don't have enough time to do the rest of the tutorial, which would be controlling the page scroll with this itself, but this just gives you a little cool technique for having something on the page move along with the page scroll itself.